If you truly want to transform your life, the time to act is right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Start immediately. It's almost like burning the bridges behind you, making sure there's no way back. What this really means is full commitment. No half-hearted effort, no dipping your toes in. You go all in. Here's the truth. I believe every person is capable of making a quantum leap. But not everyone actually needs to, and even fewer really want to. Some people would like to, but they never grant themselves permission. They don't believe in the potential that's already within them. Dr. Price Pritchett is recognized worldwide as an authority on rapid growth and breakthrough performance strategies. He has devoted decades to studying how human beings and organizations can accelerate results. One of his central teachings is that each of us carries enormous, largely untapped potential in our subconscious mind. So the big question becomes, what prevents most people from realizing that potential? What are the traps or mistakes that keep us from reaching our goals? Most people, if you ask them about their goals, will admit they keep those goals only in their head. They never write them down. And yet research has proven that the simple act of writing a goal on paper can increase the chances of success with that goal by 43%. That number alone is striking. Just writing it down changes the odds in your favor. And when people finally do sit down to think about what they want, they often limit themselves by asking, what will the world allow me to do? That single question builds invisible fences around their potential. It places boundaries on what could otherwise be an unlimited dream. So how do we rewire our thinking? How do we reshape our minds so that failure no longer equals being a loser, but instead becomes an essential step in success? That's where the idea of a trigger comes in. If you want a breakthrough, you need a catalyst, something that ignites the change. No, you won't reach the finish line in 24 hours, but the trigger you choose today will start the chain reaction. It always begins with one thing, setting an aiming point. Choose a goal that excites you and scares you at the same time. A target that ignites a fire in your heart. A goal that belongs to you, not something imposed by others, not a should or a ought to, but a desire that feels alive inside of you. This becomes the foundation. It sets the stage for everything that follows. Because when you're talking about fast growth, about making a quantum leap, the process cannot start small or timid. William James, often called the father of American psychology, once said, there are 3 rules for changing your life. 1, begin immediately. 2, do it flamboyantly. 3, no exceptions. I've always loved that quote because it perfectly mirrors the philosophy of the quantum leap strategy, or what I call the U-squared method. Begin immediately. Act without delay. Do it flamboyantly. Be bold. Play big. Burn the bridges behind you. And 3rd, no excuses, no exceptions. So why do so many people still struggle to define their big dream or commit to it? Why is it so hard to make that decision? For many, it's simply because they feel relatively content with life as it is. And that's fine. Not everyone feels called to a quantum leap. But then there are others who do want it, yet stop themselves. They never give themselves permission. They don't believe they're capable. They underestimate their own potential. I've personally evaluated hundreds of top-level executives over the years. What struck me was how much talent and ability they left unused simply because they were unwilling to take a risk. Risk aversion holds countless people back. At its core, that's what stops so many people from ever attempting a quantum leap. The fear of failure, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of loss. And yet, as we'll see, those fears are the very things we must embrace. One of the most common mistakes people make when pursuing success is that they think too small. Instead of aiming for something bold and transformative, they settle for goals that are safe, modest, and incremental. Goals that don't stretch them, goals that don't scare them. And the problem with small goals is that they generate small energy. They don't create the spark that pulls you forward. Another trap? Keeping your goals vague. Most people carry their goals around only in their heads. They never make them specific enough. And as long as a goal is vague, it remains a wish, not a commitment. This is why research from Dr. Gail Matthews is so important. She conducted a study and discovered something remarkable. When people write their goals down, the likelihood of achieving them increases by 43%. That simple act of moving the goal from your imagination onto paper or even onto a laptop screen makes it real. It anchors the intention into the physical world. It transforms a thought into something you can see and revisit. Think about it. Even with something as simple as a daily to-do list, people are far more productive when they write it out. If you just think about what you need to do tomorrow, you might remember 1 or 2 tasks. But if you write them down in order, step by step, you're much more likely to complete them all. The same principle applied to life's goals. So here's the truth. You need a goal list, just like a to-do list. Write down the big outcomes you're aiming for and then build the strategy to reach them. Another mistake? People look around at their circumstances and ask, what will the world let me do? This kind of thinking builds invisible walls around your dreams. It sets boundaries where none need to exist. Instead of asking, what will the world allow? Ask, what do I want? What am I willing to commit to making happen? The difference is enormous. Here's something else I've seen many times. People come to me after reading U2 or the Quantum Leap strategy. They say, I'm ready. I've been flatlined, I've hit a wall, and I want to make a quantum leap. And then what happens? They set an incremental goal. They think, I'll stretch a little bit, but only as far as I know how to reach. It's not a quantum leap. A quantum leap means you don't know how to get there when you first set the goal. If you already know the path, you're aiming too low. A quantum leap should scare you. It should feel like standing on the edge of the unknown. Here's the proof. Every one of us has already made quantum leaps in life. The clearest example, when you went from crawling to walking. No matter how fast you crawled or how good you got at crawling, you could never crawl your way into walking. Walking required a whole new set of moves, a completely different approach. The same thing happened when you went from walking to running, or when you learned to ride a bicycle or drive a car. Each of those transitions was a leap, not a gradual improvement of the old system. And how did you pull it off? By failing again and again. You fell, you stumbled, you got scraped up, but you kept going. You didn't quit, and eventually you mastered the new skill. That's exactly how quantum leaps work in adulthood too. Here's something most people don't realize. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the process of success, yet so many people fear it. They treat failure as punishment, as proof that they're not good enough. They worry about embarrassment, humiliation, losing money, or being judged by others. But here's the paradox. Avoiding failure is the biggest failure of all. The great psychologist Alfred Adler once said, one of your biggest mistakes in life will be that you take too many precautions. And he was right. When you attempt a quantum leap, you step into unfamiliar territory. You enter what I call a fog of ambiguity. You're moving towards something you've never done before, so of course it feels risky. But that's the very nature of breakthrough. Incremental change feels safe. But major change, skipping rungs on the achievement ladder, requires stepping into the unknown. Think of it this way. Every major shift in your life was once a quantum leap. Crawling to walking, walking to running, learning to ride a bike, driving a car. None of those came from perfecting the old skill. They required a completely new set of moves. And how did you succeed? By failing repeatedly. You fell when you tried to walk, you wobbled and crashed on the bicycle, you stalled the car when learning to drive. But each failure was just feedback, part of the process. The tragedy is that as adults, we start to label failure as losing. We hate losing. There's a scene in the movie Moneyball where Brad Pitt's character says, I hate losing. I hate losing more than I even want to win. That line resonates with so many people. Losing feels devastating. But here's the key insight. Failure is not losing. Failure is simply learning what doesn't work so you can get closer to what does. Look at how children approach it. When a toddler is learning to walk, they fall hundreds of times. They bump their heads, bruise their knees, cry out in pain, but never once does the child say, maybe walking just isn't for me, I'll stick with crawling. They keep trying, and usually the adults around them clap and cheer even when they fall. The message is, great effort, you're getting closer. Contrast that with adulthood. Try something new, fail a few times, and suddenly people may laugh at you, criticize you, or call you foolish. That social pressure often convinces people to give up too soon. So the real challenge is learning to rewire your mindset, to see failure the way you did as a child, not as defeat, but as evidence that you're stretching, growing, and moving toward mastery. The truth is simple. If you're not failing, you're playing it safe. If you know exactly how to reach your goal, it's not a quantum leap. And if your goal doesn't scare you, it's probably too small. Failure belongs in the process. It's not a bug in the system. It is the system. One of the most powerful levers for success is also one of the most overlooked, your mindset. But we've all heard about the power of positive thinking. For decades, books and speakers have told us, just think positive thoughts. And yes, optimism is vital. But the latest research shows something even more surprising. Reducing negative thinking is even more important than increasing positive thinking. Why? Because negativity damages you far more than positivity helps you. Here's what the science shows. Most of us don't realize it, but about 70% of our daily thoughts are negative. Doubts, fears, criticisms, worries. That negativity quietly poisons our mood, our energy, and even our physical health. Studies reveal that constant negative thinking spikes cortisol, drains energy, disrupts the nervous system, and even affects those around you. Attitudes are contagious, and negative ones spread fast. In fact, one of the most famous long-term psychology studies followed a group of nuns for over 50 years. When researchers compared the optimistic nuns to the pessimistic ones, they found that the positive-minded nuns lived an average of 7 years longer. 7 years. Think about that. Negative thinking can literally shorten your lifespan, more than smoking does. And yet, in school, nobody ever teaches us how to manage our thoughts. We study math, science, and history, but we never have a class on emotional self-discipline or mental resilience. For many of us, the only place we got that kind of coaching was in sports, when a coach would say things like, keep your attitude up, focus, stay positive. But for everyday life, most of us are left to figure it out on our own. This brings us to another area where mindset matters deeply: money. Your relationship with money is heavily shaped by your emotions. If you constantly think negatively about money, stressing about bills, resenting those who have more, or fearing you'll never have enough, then why would more money flow into your life? Even if you do get it, it won't feel good because your mindset is poisoned by negativity. But when you build a healthier relationship with money based on optimism, gratitude, and responsibility, you open the door to greater abundance. Now let's shift to another subtle but crucial mindset issue: permission. One of the biggest reasons people don't go after their dream goals is that they don't give themselves permission. They think, I'd love to chase this big ambition, but it feels selfish. It'll take too much energy away from other parts of my life. What if I can't pull it off? But here's the truth. Chasing a quantum leap will demand focus, energy, and sacrifice. Yes, you'll have to let go of lesser priorities, but that isn't selfish. It's necessary. I've worked with top executives on billion-dollar mergers, and even at that level, one of my biggest roles was simply giving them permission. They already knew what needed to be done, but they were waiting for someone to say, yes, this is the right move, go all in. You have to give yourself that same permission, because when setbacks hit, and they will, only a heart-driven goal will keep you going. If it matters deeply to you, you'll have the fire to push through the dark moments. Without that emotional commitment, you'll quit at the first sign of friction. And let's talk about friction for a moment, because comfort, ironically, can be dangerous. Too much comfort breeds stagnation. If your life feels perfectly balanced, perfectly stable, perfectly safe, you might not be growing at all. Bob Dylan once said, "He not busy being born is busy dying." Growth requires friction, requires resistance. Just like lifting weights at the gym, progress comes from stretching yourself beyond comfort. Exercise itself proves the point. It's not meant to feel easy. But that very discomfort is what makes you stronger, healthier, and more energized. In the same way, friction in life is what forces us to grow. Here's a truth that often surprises people. Being too comfortable can actually hold you back. Author Nassim Nicholas Taleb wrote a book called Anti-Fragile, where he explains that some things not only survive stress and chaos, they actually get stronger because of it. Think about a crystal glass. You'd pack it carefully in bubble wrap and mark the box fragile, because any rough handling could shatter it. Now picture a basketball. You can toss it around, slam it to the floor, even kick it, and it bounces back to form. That's resilience. But anti-fragility goes a step further. Imagine something that actually improves when it's thrown around. That's how we should train ourselves to be. Life is full of shocks, setbacks, and turbulence. Instead of avoiding them, we need to use them to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. That's what it means to be anti-fragile. This is also why small goals aren't enough. Small goals might help you build habits or check off to-do lists, but they generate small energy. They attract small resources. They don't stir your creativity or inspire other people to rally behind you. Big goals, on the other hand, electrify you. They demand innovation. They pull in allies and opportunities. They force you to become more than you were before. When you set a big goal, you don't just achieve more, you transform into someone new. But this raises an important question. What about giving up? We all know persistence is key, but sometimes quitting is actually the smarter choice. So how do you know the difference between quitting too early and wisely letting go? Angela Duckworth, author of Grit, explored this in her research. She even wrote about poker players to illustrate the point. Experts know when to fold. They understand the odds, cut their losses, and live to play another hand. Novices, on the other hand, often stay in too long, blinded by sunk costs, and end up losing more. In life, the same principle applies. Sticking with the wrong goal can drain your energy, break your relationships, and keep you from the path that's truly yours. So the test is this: does the goal still ignite your heart? Are you willing to endure the pain and setbacks? Because the dream itself is worth it. Or has the fire gone out, leaving only obligation and ego behind? If your heart is no longer in it, it may not be your true path. That brings us to another trap: confusing passion with talent. Scott Adams, creator of the Dilbert comic strip, once wrote that passion is often a byproduct of talent. It's easy to feel passionate about something you're naturally good at because early wins fuel excitement. But watch what happens when repeated failures stack up. Passion fades quickly if there's no foundation of skill. Adams admitted he wasn't a great artist. His drawings were crude at best, but he wanted to be a famous cartoonist, and he knew he had other strengths: wit, storytelling, humor. So he leaned into those. And here's the remarkable part. Every day, he wrote down the sentence, "I, Scott Adams, will become a famous cartoonist." 15 times a day, every day. He wasn't talented at drawing, but he was relentless in belief, clarity, and pursuit. Eventually, his comic strip exploded in popularity, and his dream came true. The lesson? Passion alone won't carry you through. But clarity, belief, persistence, and leveraging your true strengths will. So here's the pattern emerging. Don't fear friction. Become anti-fragile. Don't waste time on small goals. Aim high. Don't confuse quitting with failing. Know when your heart has left the game. Don't rely on passion alone. Anchor it to your real talents and strengths. That's how you set yourself up for true quantum leaps. When people talk about success, they often focus on talent, intelligence, or hard work. But if you look closely at almost any extraordinary achievement, there's another factor at play: luck. In fact, studies suggest that luck accounts for anywhere between 30–50% of career success, more than talent, IQ, or even work ethic. But here's the mistake. Most people think luck is random, something out of their control. The truth is, you can invite luck, you can create the conditions where it shows up more often. Let's start at the very beginning. The biggest stroke of luck you ever had was the day you were conceived. Out of millions of possible eggs and quadrillions of sperm, you were the one that connected. The odds were astronomical. You'll never be that lucky again in your life, and yet here you are. And luck didn't stop there. Maybe you were born in a country with opportunities. Maybe you had parents who cared. Maybe you avoided major disabilities. All of these were strokes of fortune that shaped your path before you ever lifted a finger. But beyond those circumstances, there are deliberate ways to multiply luck. Here are some of the key strategies. 1. Tell luck what you want. Luck responds to clarity. When you set a bold, specific goal and put it down on paper, you're essentially signaling to the world and to luck itself what you're aiming for. Without that, opportunities may surround you but go unnoticed. 2. Be an optimist. Luck favors the positive-minded. Why? Because optimists are more likely to see opportunities when they appear, and they're more willing to take chances. Pessimists, meanwhile, dismiss possibilities or assume bad motives. If you keep turning luck away, it will stop knocking. 3. Stay in circulation. Most lucky breaks come through other people, and often not your closest friends or family, but weak ties, acquaintances, strangers, people you just met. Why? Because your strong ties have already shared most of what they can. Fresh connections bring fresh opportunities. That's why it's said, don't fish in your bathtub. Get out into the world, be seen, be involved. 4. Give your deep mind space to speak. Luck often surfaces through intuition, those quiet nudges that seem to come out of nowhere. To hear them, you need quiet time, a daily ritual of stillness. It might be meditation, a long walk, or simply sitting with your thoughts. This opens the door to insights rising from your subconscious, guiding you toward the opportunities luck is lining up. 5. Create luck for others. We live in a reciprocal universe. Call it karma, call it compensation, call it what goes around comes around. When you bring good fortune to others through generosity, encouragement, introductions, or support, it circles back to you. And science backs this up too. Acts of giving trigger feel-good chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which boost optimism and courage, both essential for spotting and seizing luck. Many people struggle with goals because they don't really have a strategy. They try too many things at once, get distracted, and spread themselves thin. But making a quantum leap isn't about doing everything. It's about focusing on the handful of essentials that have the biggest impact. Here's the 4-part framework. 1. Set a massive, heart-firm aiming point. Don't pick something small or incremental. Choose a goal so big that it excites you, scares you, and pulls you forward. It has to be yours. Not a should goal, not what others expect of you, but what truly stirs your heart. 2. Pursue it relentlessly. Think of a baby learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times, but they never give up. Every failure is feedback. Every stumble is a coaching moment. That's how you need to treat your dreams. Stay in the game, keep moving forward, and don't bench yourself just because it's hard. 3. Do the necessary mind work. Your brain is your quarterback. Train it like you would train your body. Discipline your thinking. Block out negative thoughts. Create a daily ritual where you review your goals, quiet your mind, and let intuition rise to the surface. Optimism isn't just nice to have, it's fuel. It shapes how you act, how you see opportunities, and how much luck you attract. 4. Track your progress. This sounds simple, but hardly anyone does it. Write things down, mark your calendar, keep score. Because if you're not tracking, you're hiding from the truth. Tracking is like truth serum. It shows whether you're actually doing the work or just wishing. But that's the U-squared method in its purest form. Aiming point, relentless pursuit, mind work, tracking, ignore the noise, focus on these 4, and you'll be shocked at the leaps you can make. Now, after 6 decades of studying psychology, growth, and human potential, if Bryce Pritchett had to give his younger self just 3 pieces of advice, here's what they'd be. Take more risks, believe in yourself more, be willing to fail. The Navy SEALs have a saying, most people quit when they've only reached 40% of their true capacity. That means you still have 60% left inside you. Most of us never find that reserve because we stop too soon. Belief in yourself unlocks it. Taking risks tests it. Failure reveals it. What about the future? The next breakthroughs in human potential will almost certainly come from understanding the brain better. We've barely scratched the surface of what the mind can do. The more we learn about thought patterns, emotions, and self-belief, the more tools we'll have to unlock our hidden reserves. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to this. You are the most powerful person in your life. Here are the 3 ultimate truths to carry with you. You are the most powerful force in your life. Not your parents, not your boss, not your friends, you. You have an extraordinary capacity for change. You can reinvent, rebuild, and grow far beyond what you think. You are the solution to your future. The answers aren't out there somewhere. They're within you. And finally, what does greatness mean? Greatness is being able to look back, whether you're 35, 55, or 85, and say, I put myself out there. I didn't play it too safe. I took my shot. It's not about being perfect or error-free. It's about daring, about risking, about refusing to leave your potential unused. Because no one gets out of life alive, so you might as well go all in.